We're going to start a session here called Cannabis Growing and Cultivation. And I'm going to introduce you to the moderator here, who is Josh Rettie, right to my left here immediately. Josh is a plant builder from Seattle, where he has been working with cannabis professionally for 18 years and unprofessionally for 22 years. So he has been a volunteer with the Seattle Hemp Fest since 2004. He has years of in-depth experience in retail and wholesale markets, extraction methods, cultivation, and he currently runs a successful furniture company with his brother. What kind of furniture do you have there, Josh?
In a jam.
Sorry, coffins? What furniture do you have?
Oh, Danish modern furniture from the 1960s.
Okay, whatever that was. Is that like chairs and stuff?
Yeah, it's tables, chairs, sideboards,
Perfect.
dressers.
All right, and here's the interesting thing. He has been studying Zen Buddhism for 10 years, which is a course apparently not offered at his alma mater, which was Trump University. So he is going to, where he was valedictorian. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Josh, and then we're going to have questions in about a half an hour, okay?
Thanks, Dave. It's wonderful to see so many people here today. Before we begin, I will start by sharing some of the first words I came across in my cultivator's journey. They're found in a Marijuana Grower's Guidebook by Mel Frank, published in 1988, a poem written by Charles Chase. Air, sky, land, water, touch me, keep me, child, simple and in rhythm with the earth. That poem is nice. Charles Chase even gets the environmental hierarchies correct there. But more so, it offers an abstract model to which all growers can relate and therefore speaks to what we are talking about here today. Regardless of which legislation, which laws, which standards, which market values apply, which effects, intentions, and desires we approach cannabis with, there is a golden thread uniting us all as cultivators. We are adapting our behavior to care for plants. We are learning what it is to care. We learn to be conscientious and observing. We learn to make decisions with not only our gardens, our health, the health of others, and our bottom line in mind, but we learn how each one decision affects the myriad of others. Enter a relationship with this plant, and you will find yourself entangled in the web of life. I'm reminded of a familiar bumper sticker and rural billboards that say, if you ate today, thank a farmer. So if you consume cannabis today, thank a grower. We have an excellent, wonderfully well-rounded, highly organic panel here today. We each only have about 5 minutes to share something, but we might share in a different way, we'll see. So please listen carefully and feel free to applaud briefly at the end of each speaker, but please do hold on to any questions until the end of the presentation. We'll have a Q&A at the end. So it seems I am the first speaker to go, so without further ado, let's get on with it. Actually, what I do want to do is read the introductions of everyone here today so that we know who's up here. I think that's a better way to go. To my left is Sarah Bradshaw. Sarah's experience as a grower of cannabis, she's a master herbalist, dates back to 1971 when she planted several seeds in a newly dug irrigation line for the cemetery on the slope of Mount Ida. Accessible only by foot or horseback, the crop was a moderate success and the first of many. Awesome. With formal training as a certified organic inspector, PROPA, landscape horticulture certificate, NAIT Fairview, and master composter status, Sarah has a broad base of knowledge to share. As a master herbalist, Sarah has a deep respect for the plants and their power to heal. She combines this knowledge with her aromatherapy and Bach remedy training to formulate individual medicines with proven efficacy closely related and of the utmost importance is pest control and disease management using methods not harmful to the plants or the people using them. That's worth a... To her left, we have Selena Wong. She's the co-founder and president of the Flower of Life Compassion Club Society. Selena has been a longtime advocate for conscious cannabis cultivation and is dedicated to nurturing the intimate, sacred relationship between cannabis, grower, medicine maker, and consumer. Selena Wong is co-founder and president of the Flower of Life Compassion Club Society, a medicinal cannabis apothecary dedicated to sustainable, locally sourced, conscious cannabis cultivation, medicine making, and distribution. The Flower of Life Compassion Club Society offers an integrative, individualized, health-centered approach to healing, complementing allopathic care with mind-body medicine, herbalism, homeopathy, nutrition, mindfulness, counseling, and community support. Selena is a cannabis consultant and currently studying clinical cannabinoid medicine at the Medical Cannabis Institute. That's definitely... And to her left, we have Travis Lane, who is the CEO of the Internet Dispensary. With almost 2 decades of experience working with cannabis, Travis Lane has established himself as an optimistic voice for the future of the industry. He started as a young, small-time cultivator. Over the years, he has involved himself in many facets of cannabis production and distribution, from cultivation to breeding to dispensary management and media publishing. A strong believer in the potential of an inclusive and open cannabis business environment, he is also an outspoken proponent of no-till organic growing methods, the elimination of chronic pesticide use, and the future of cultivation being under the sun. Sun Rome. And finally, last on the left is Mr. David Bernard Perron. He's the lead agrologist and grower for the Whistler Medical Marijuana Corporation. David Bernard Perron is an agrologist and has a Master of Science in Plant Sciences from McGill University. He began working in greenhouse production in 2001 and worked for McGill in the Greenhouses and Horticultural Research Center for 5 years. He is the lead agrologist and one of the head growers at Whistler Medical Marijuana Corporation. Over the last year and a half, he designed the Certified Organic Growing Program at Whistler Medical Marijuana Corporation, making them the only fully certified organic licensed producer in Canada. Thanks for listening. So I'm just going to sort of consume the next 5 minutes of our panel here and address 3 of the questions. We've all were asked over the week to bring 3 questions to the panel, and so I'm just going to take the next 5 minutes to go through mine. Thank you for listening. Okay, so my name's Josh Rettie, aka Plant Builder, aka PB, aka Rosin Man, aka Young Rosin. Just kidding. And I've been working professionally with cannabis since 1998, although I currently sell Danish furniture for a living. That being said, you can be sure I know what quality is. We were all asked to bring 2 or 3 questions to initialize this cannabis discussion. I thought it would be best if we each take a go at our own questions. That way we have the potential to share the most amount of information in the given time. My first question: how do we determine the quality of your cannabis? And in answering that myself, I will use the term quality of life as the best barometer, and give a shout out to a wise woman named Rettie somewhere here who knows this very much herself. In 2007, while attending Douglas College and fighting possession charges with Kirk Tusaw in court, I was also tending to my first MMAR-sanctioned sweet skunk crop and enjoying the rewards of my labor. Each day I skateboarded to class on a bubble hash-filled joint and soared through my studies. At the end of that semester, I had earned 2 cash scholarships and made the dean's list. My quality of life was good at the time, and the quality of the herb was even better. But alas, this was not my medical garden, nor my home, nor would the jars of sweet skunk last. I can recall similar times when I know that cannabis was affecting my life positively, and they entirely relate to my level of access and to the times when I was actively growing. I also currently switch from not-so-great cannabis to very well-grown cannabis and see the difference in my quality of life, not only in retrospect, but throughout the process. So before I get into cultivation techniques, market values, sommelier skills, wow factor, elite cuts, elite people, I just need to zoom way, way out to how are things going to get a clear idea on whether it's good weed or not. Good intentions equal good results. The second question we can think about is what are the lowest and highest cost inputs in your system? Okay, for me, it's the cost of buying cannabis, and I'll use this question to give you an idea of how things are going for me. I choose to consume 1 gram of cannabis concentrates per day. My weapon of choice is flower rosin. Go to the marketplace and do the math on that one. $365 times whatever you're paying for 1 gram of concentrates. Regardless, I can get my cost without growing down to $33 to $45 per gram of concentrate per day, which equates roughly $15,000 to $18,000 of my annual income. Holy crap. And I only advocate my decision half-heartedly, knowing that I have the skills to reduce the cost by growing at home to basically a level of $3,000 to $5,000 per year. That's a difference of immediately $10,000 back into my life. Spending nearly half of my income on cannabis is crazy and greatly affects my quality of life. I'm working my way out of this, trust me, and I've made some very important decisions to make that happen. In regard to cultivation, let's call the myriad of low-cost factors just that. Things like elbow grease, your sense of humor, and your ability to exploit family labor. It's just that, the myriad. And look for one big limiting factor, it's real estate and the included infrastructure to that real estate. Our ticket to grow is literally owning our own homes, and that's what I'm working towards first and foremost. Without the autonomy of ownership comes some very big legislative and social stopgaps. I'm not going to get into my last question. I'm going to start by letting the panel, because I think we are a bit short of time. So I'm just going to, again, start a discussion here with Sarah Bradshaw. Her resume seems like the most badass here on the panel.
No, I've just been around a while.
And so I have our questions, excuse me. Okay, here we go. So, with all that experience, Sarah, do you want to just give us a few minutes on the major factors in soil health and plant growth?
Sure. Okay, well, not only am I a marijuana farmer, I'm a farmer. And I tend to tell people all the time that I don't actually grow plants, I raise earthworms. And the earthworms do all the work, and they grow my vegetables for me, and they grow all of my herbs and that. I'm really, really committed to growing the plant in the most natural method that I can. And although I've done hydro shows and have been relatively successful with them, I miss the whole kind of organic experience of growing the plant in a soil that I've built. There's fabulous inputs that you can put into your soil to bring up. In indoor growing, it's very, very difficult to actually incorporate those wonderful worms that I'm talking about, and I actually don't even try to do that in my growing tables, but I do use a lot of earthworm castings. And I build my soil using things like high phosphorus bat guano, high nitrogen bat guano, earthworm castings, heated treated compost that I know isn't going to be bringing any more bugs into my room. I feel it's very, very important to build things right from the ground up. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Rudolf Steiner, the founder of the anthroposophy movement, and I'm a real adherent to biodynamic principles in my garden and in my growing. So my preferred method is actually to grow outside with or without, some kind of cover and augmentation. If you use augmentation of greenhousing outside, you're still getting all the lumens from the sun, and as far as I'm concerned, nothing outclasses Mother Nature. So, getting all the energy, all the lumens from the sun is really, really important. I tend to use companion planting, when I do use bugs for biological control, but when you're dealing with flowering cannabis, often by the time your plants are in the flowering state, it's too late for those helpful biological bugs to help you out. And so they're more of use for you in the mum room, in your early stages of your clones. They're very, very beneficial. But once you start getting into flowering, you know, you're going to have a real difficulty coming up with something that deals with your bugs and doesn't at the same time cause you other problems. One of the things I do is I use what I call bait plants. They're my little canaries in the gold mine. And so I have basil, I have tender herbs in my grow room, and anything that is going to eat my marijuana is going to go after them first, because they're tenderer, they're softer, and truth to tell, they're actually a lot tastier to the bugs. I think I'm going to stop at that point in the name of brevity, and, you know,
Yeah,
leave
that's
it at
wonderful.
that.
Thank you, Sarah. I think just to keep things going, we're just going to go over to Travis here. What I'm seeing here is we have four very, maybe five very adept gardeners, but certainly we have three dominant people that very much ascribe to growing organically. We have the only certified organic LP. We've got a definite organic diehard here. So I'd like to hear a bit from Travis right now after hearing from Sarah. And basically, if I could tease out one thing, is some sort of basic language for why you guys go to that bias of organics, and just sort of make that your mandate in life, if there's any clues.
Because I eat the stuff, and I don't want to eat poison.
Well said. Travis, please.
Well, the reason you end up in organics is because of logic. I'm pretty much a lifelong grower in BC. So when I started growing, I was in my teens. I threw a plant in a closet and it died. I quickly learned the BC method, which was taught to us by hydroponic stores back in the day, which is buy 3 weird colored bottles, pour it into peat that has no life in it, and then spray your plants with pesticides. So that was sort of the BC standard when I started growing. And it is still in certain places. I mean, let's not pretend that everybody's suddenly growing organic all around us. For me, it was kind of a long journey. I tried a lot of different things. I tried hydro, I tried cocoa, I stuck with the peat, and eventually I started in the early 2000s. Everybody sort of kept their method to themselves, and it was a secret. It was a trade secret. And when Overgrow, the forum, came around, and all the forums started to get big, people had an anonymous way to share grow knowledge. And what happened is this recycled organic living soil community based on a few gardeners from the West Coast in Washington State and Oregon became very prominent on some of the big forums like ICMag, Grass City. And I just started looking at what they were doing, and they were posting pictures, and everything looked better and everything made more sense. And I started looking into the business side of it and seeing that the costs can be mitigated in an extreme way by avoiding using chelated salt-based nutrients. And the other thing about it is, I mean, there's been a lot of changes. When I decided to go organic, I went organic for my own reasons because it made sense monetarily, it made sense ethically, and it was fun. It was something new. But now we face the actual possibility of cultivation being legal. Now, I don't know who thinks that once it's legalized, cannabis is going to continue to be grown in bunkers and basements under fake light, but it's not. There's one cash crop in the world that's grown inside right now, and that's cannabis. There's no other one. It's going to come outside. And if we go outside with the techniques that we use for indoor container gardens, it's going to have tragic environmental impact. If you look at the salt base of a lot of the fertilizers that we use in indoor container gardens, that salt alone will desiccate a lot of the bacteria and microlife that lives in your natural soil. And so for me, it was kind of like the plant progressed in technology, particularly with liquid fertilizers, when it was illegal and we had to hide. And now we're coming to a time where maybe we don't. And maybe we can actually, if you think about it, you could plant your plant in the ground and use the sun. And that would eliminate the 2 single biggest cost factors to cultivating cannabis for a profit or for personal consumption. It doesn't matter who the end user is. It's just a logical way to go. And then the other thing about it is the pesticide factor. It's like we use these poisonous pesticides because we create no biodiversity in these indoor sterile environments. If we have the biodiversity, you don't have the danger of one creature, one bacteria taking over your entire environment. There's always competition for food. There's always competition for the life to stay alive. And so for me, as I started looking more and more into it, I actually found that I was discovering that the methods that we use for our indoor container gardens are maybe not wrong in an illegal and hidden illicit market, but they're certainly not going to survive the test of time. Once this is open to everybody, we're not going to be pouring 3-part GH feed into the ground. You know, we're not going to be using these things anymore, and we're not going to be paying for them. And as a result, you're going to see the end product come down in price for the consumer as well.
Wow. Now, let's hear a little bit from David here, because I mean, one of the things, I just have a quick question for Travis. Do you have an active greenhouse this summer with cannabis in it?
So this is the first year that I've converted everything to outdoors. I have one license. Obviously, we can't move licenses around, and obviously the MMAR thing's a whole mess right now. But yeah, we're converting absolutely everything to greenhouses, planted directly into the ground. I love what Sarah said. It's like I've always said, I'm not even a gardener. The earthworms do it all for me. It's like if you have a living soil with thriving worms and thriving life, the job of the grower is easy. It's the most enjoyable thing in the world. It's almost meditative. You hang out with some plants, you know, talk to them, sing to them, whatever you do, and then you make sure that your worms are alive and you walk away. It's really a very simple thing to do, and it's cheaper. And so everything about it is just, it makes more sense.
Thanks, Travis. So yeah, we have an active gardener here with a plan. Current legislation basically, I'm not sure of the facility, but I'll assume or guess that your cannabis production is grown indoors under lights at this moment.
Yeah, everything is indoors.
But it is certified organic, and there are some certain logic points that will all be shared. And one of the things we've heard is basically the overuse of pesticides in the market as we see it now. So I can assume that that would be one of the driving factors to mitigate pesticide use in your facility. And maybe what are the ways that you're currently doing that? So what is your IPM strategy?
Well, yes, I think especially when producing a medicine, you really want to avoid spraying pesticide, because those pesticides have been developed for a plant that either are going to be ingested or designed for food crop, other crop. With cannabis, we're producing a leafy green that people are going to vaporize or are going to smoke it. So the delivery method of pesticide, even if they are organic, is way more intense than ingesting a fruit that's not even the green part of the plant. So it's possible to completely avoid pesticide spray in a biological system. Like Travis said, you just have to create your own ecosystem inside your greenhouse. And by that, it's a monitoring of the pest insect, and also introducing the beneficial insects at the proper time and the proper rates, and then you just let them do their thing. It's kind of beautiful in a way. You're just reintroducing nature where it should be, and or you're staging insect war, which is also cool to watch if you're into that. But it's an elegant system. Growing organic, it makes sense, and it's you're producing an higher quality product at the end without the help of any chemicals.
Thank you. A question is just teasing at me. So a facility like WMMP, we have this terrible irradiation kind of rumor. This was a big topic at last year's cannabis conference that was put on. So if there is a way to ask this question, I know that someone with organic principles is trying to put out clean medicine for people. How do you meet that legislation that asks that it be mold and bacteria free?
It was a learning curve at first, but there's like growing with Health Canada standard, they apply to us the same standard as the industry. So you have to have minimal bacterial content. Bacterial count, spore. Daniel's over there is our QA manager. He can tell you a lot about that. All the testing required for a finished product, but it's learn how to process your cannabis at harvest, and while you're growing it, by minimizing some foliar spray or doing the proper thing, it's all about timing. A lot of the stuff you're doing. So, and yeah.
So can we just clarify that when you're cultivating clean medicine and it's testing below the thresholds?
Yeah, it's testing, and we're not irradiating anything as well. That's a choice that we've made.
Awesome.
Thank you, David. That's key information. Part of this conference is to dispel these awful myths and often awful cultivation practices that get passed around like a dirty pair of something. I don't know. So far, so good. So we're good for time here. We have Selena Wong here of, sorry. The Flower of Life Compassion Club, thank you. So I think I probably share similar views with Selena. I certainly let off that good intentions equate good cannabis. Maybe even your intentions for me at the time were to make the best or the sort of top of the market cannabis and maybe get the credentials or kudos that comes along with doing that. But it was setting that goal to be on top that led me to land on top when the product comes through. So I'd love to hear some words from Selena and about her business and about what she's doing, please.
Awesome. Cool. Well, my name's Selena Wong, and I'm actually just so thrilled to be here. Thank you, guys. What we do is we specialize in conscious cannabis. So we're very conscientious of how cannabis is being cultivated, how things are being made, how they're being produced and why, and for who. We're very passionate about making sure that from seed to sale and beyond to the actual medicinal use of the cannabis product, that this product is safe. It's the most important thing. To have pesticides and chemicals and radiated medicine is not a standard that I think is a standard, and we're here to set a new one. And I think that that's what's so pertinent to this type of conference, this conference specifically. For me personally, I've had a very beautiful, sacred relationship with the spirit plant medicine, and I was prompted to start a dispensary, and that's why we're here. So I'm really allowing cannabis to work through us, to bridge us with the right people who want to actually find health and wellness in their lives. Part of what we do too is we support people on their journey to health and healing. They come in for cannabis, but they receive so much more. If they're willing to heal, they begin on a journey and they're supported throughout their journey to becoming whole again, health again. So that's what we do. Sarah's actually a part of our team, and she's our master herbalist and one of our formulators of the medicines that we provide. We're also very passionate about making sure that people understand how to use their medicine properly, so we take a lot of time to educate people. And we're very open about where does the medicine come from, how is it produced, and we're always looking to do better. So we really adopt an attitude of Kaizen, which means always getting better and better with everything you do.
Thank you, Selena. The one last question I wanted to pose was, how do we acquire our genetic material? Maybe we'll just pass that down the line. For clonal cultivars that I represent, like Renee, Sweet Skunk, Congo, etc., I earn them, likely by helping others. Each ballast wired correctly, clone cut, pound trimmed, good advice given, earn me the access to the clonal cultivars that everyone's after, especially the LPs. And secondly, by starting seeds, which showed me the reason that good clones get kept for so long, but also showed me that I'm not beholden or stuck with anyone's deluded ideas on how to improve my quality of life. And the real question is what we can talk about for the rest of the year is how do we keep them or maintain them? The real question is, where does it come from?
Well, I can speak for me. I'm just a weed geek. Like, I probably own 30 grand worth of seeds over the past 20 years that I bought. Half of them are 40 years old and probably won't even pop. Also just collecting clones. I mean, if you're in the industry in BC, some people do hoard their genetics, try and turn it into a monetary proprietary thing. But for the most part, we live in a pretty good part of the world to acquire a lot of fine genetics. And as long as you have a good source for seeds, clones are not the be-all and end-all. You find your own elites by popping seeds. They're out there. All those phenotypes were a seed to start with. So for me, it's been me and my friends popping seeds for years and years and years to find various different clones.
Yeah, I also am an advocate of saving your own seeds, trading seeds, breeding your own plants. When I do that, I keep careful notes on which was the male plant, which was the female plant. So I can, and we do have some of my seeds available at the Flower of Life, where we do sell some of them, and I give you complete background on those genetics. The other thing that I do is I feminize some of my own seeds. I work with some of my plants and feminize some of my own seeds so that I can pass on to people that strain in a seed variety where they're not going to have to go through about a 1-year-long process of selecting out a female, growing it up, cloning it. It can be a very lengthy process, but I don't ever really want to kiss goodbye the seeds because I've often recouped a complete strain simply by, careful seed selection. So I do both.
Awesome. I'll word it this way for David.
I'm just jealous of all of you guys. Your inventory is not regulated by Health Canada.
Yeah, he read my question perfectly. So I wish you the best in acquiring new stuff and getting out of that legislative limbo for sure.
All right. We're going to open this up to questions now. We have a mic here. This is going to be the organic pesticide-free mic. So if you have questions about, singing earthworms and things, this is a good place to go. If you have other questions and if you're wearing, Roundup or Aquavelva or something, there's another mic over there outside, and we'll take your questions from there. So let's start over here.
I heard from the panelists about the sunshine, the earthworms, and the natural insects. I haven't heard about probiotics because we use that for animals, for shrimps, for plants. What about probiotics?
There are actually bacteria that you can use. There are things that you can do. It's kind of tricky. You have to really sort of know what you're doing, and I didn't really go into it lots in this audience because it is actually something that you have to look at very carefully. But yes, there are indeed beneficial bacterial controls that can be used.
And when you're using stuff like as earthworm compost or you have earthworm in your soil, they have probiotics in their digestive tract that will colonize your soil by working your soil for you. So you're using actually the beneficial microbes present in the worms. They will produce probiotics for you in the proper conditions.
Yeah, like the probiotics in living soil, the soil's alive. So the soil is probiotic in and of itself. You can use things like lactobacillus and various different things to inoculate your soil in certain ways, but as long as you keep your soil alive, your soil itself is essentially a probiotic.
Okay, so the foliage, do you avoid touching the foliage before you harvest?
No, I actually spray compost tea all over my plants all the time. And I use aloe a lot as well. There's no reason to, I don't spray it on the buds once they're flowering, but there's no reason to not handle, touch, look. How are you going to inspect for insects or inspect for mold or stuff like that if you're never touching your flowers? It's very important that you're in the room or someone's spending time in the room and paying attention. That's what makes all this organic production artisanal. That's why we do it, is to spend the time in the room.
Selena and I actually love to handle the plants. It's one of the things we do for them is we love them all up and let them know how much we really do like them. We're all energy. You're energy, I'm energy, and the plants are energy too. And if you keep working with that energy and its whole spectrum, you're just going to get a better result.
Be nice to those heads, please. Come on.
Wanted to know the panel's opinion of neem oil. Neem oil, what you thought, if it can fall into an organic IPM, or is there too much controversy?
I absolutely think it can fall in an organic IPM. I tend to use neem cake more than neem meal. So I'll put the neem cake in my worm compost tea that I spray on my plants and use that as a partial IPM. I also add it to my soil mix. It can add as an amendment, or act as an amendment that also adds nitrogen. Pretty significant amount of nitrogen, actually. But there is controversy about that. I mean, I would never spray neem oil on something that was going to be consumed. So you don't spray it on a part of the plant. Once it starts flowering, you don't spray anything on that plant anymore.
Bingo. Yeah, and neem oil, yeah, I agree with you with that. And actually, the one benefit from neem oil over an artificial perithrium is that the artificial perithrium applied improperly can actually get your mites into an early egg laying stage. So now you've just made your problem a whole lot worse. And so given, this or that, I would, go with the neem as well. But like you said, you got to be careful of how you use it.
I think the controversy is also about azadirachtin, a product named Azamax that's seemingly certified in certain states and whatnot for use. And it gets talked about, it's a derivative, it comes from the neem oil. and is concentrated and, I guess, changed in some respect. And just to clarify that we were talking about neem seed cake oil used in veg, not sprayed on flowers, and we certainly, I think, none of us are condoning the use of azadirachtin.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind when you're talking about certified organic compounds and that is something will be taken off of the certified organic list because it is a broad spectrum killer, meaning it'll kill your beneficials as well as what you're looking at. And that's now being kind of banned in the broader organic circles. That doesn't mean it's not 100% safe to use. Let it within its time frame, and it won't necessarily have any negative effect on the consumer. One of those, for instance, is cinnamaldehyde, which is a derivative of cinnamon oil, and it doesn't cause any problems to people, but it'll kill everything. And its half-life is so short that you can reintroduce beneficials within 24 hours, but it still wouldn't be considered certified organic standards because of that property.
In fact, when we experimented with spraying cinnamon oil just as a pest control agent, we wanted to see how toxic it was to the plants. A very small concentration, less than 0.5%, killed the plant outright in 24 hours.
Oh, yeah, you have to be really, really careful with it, but yeah.
So it'll kill everything.
But it's one of the few things that'll kill mites in the egg stage. So, you know, it's got its use and its benefit, and it's not toxic to us, but yeah.
Just use it at Christmas. All right, one last question.
Yes, hello. I wholeheartedly agree that as we go from a prohibition model to post-prohibition, where we're going outside and not having to pay huge money for air conditioning, lights, etc. What challenges do you see as we move to an outdoor environment, such as cross-pollination problems when you have certain cultivars and that sort of thing? How do you guys see creating best practices around that so that outdoor grow for the mainstream production is going to be viable and doable? And I guess Travis and or Sarah.
Okay, well, I mean, that's sort of my whole plan, is to be prepared for the time when I can just do it outside. In BC, we're probably going to have to use greenhouses because we got to extend the season. But there's lots of places in the world where you'll be able to grow almost year-round with very little. Like, I don't see the problem personally being pollination or something like that. I see it being taking an industry that's built all its technology for indoor cultivation in containers and taking that outside and trying to both mitigate the impact and save money, and therefore creating a cheaper end product. I think the two biggest things that we're going to face, and maybe you're going to hear a genetics panel later, we've for 30, 40 years been breeding the genetics of cannabis in BC to be grown indoors. Our high THC cultivars that come from inside, we're going to now take those outside, and we're going to have to work on that from a genetic perspective. And the other thing I think about is fertilizer. It's like I said earlier, if you use liquid, chelated, salt-based fertilizer outdoors, you're going to kill all the life in the soil, and that's going to have huge economic or environmental impacts. So in order to mitigate that, I think that's why I've moved so close to the recycled soil, because it will keep the soil alive. You're using what's already there.
British Columbia, home to the most beautiful landscapes in the world. Home to mom and pop vineyards, hot springs, farmers markets, some of the world's best skiing, snowboarding, surfing, and mountain biking. We protect our rainforests and keep our air clean. BC, we strike the right balance between nature and nurture. But did you know that for the last 30 years, BC has also been home to the finest cannabis in the world? BC Bud is world-renowned for its taste, aroma, and potency. We've competed and won cups, gained recognition from international celebrities. We are the cannabis growers of Canada. We create wealth, opportunity, and good-paying private sector jobs. The BC cannabis crop is worth over $7 billion a year, and there were over 17,000 farms creating work for Canadians and improving the lives of millions of people. We are joining together to build a free and fair cannabis market that benefits all Canadians. Won't you come and join us at cannagrowers.ca?